Jake Martinez walked along the rocky beach like he did every day after school. The cold ocean waves crashed against the shore, and seagulls flew overhead, looking for food. He kicked at the wet sand and picked up pieces of sea glass that washed up from the water. His backpack was heavy with homework. He did not want to do that at 16 years old. Jake thought his life was pretty boring. He lived in a small town called Pine Harbor in Maine. Most kids his age wanted to leave and see the world, but Jake liked it here. The town was quiet, and everyone knew everyone else. His mom worked at the local library, and his dad fixed boats. At the marina, Jake was not the smartest kid in school, but he was not the dumbest either. He got mostly B grades, and sometimes an A in history class. What made Jake different was how good he was at games that needed thinking. He could beat anyone at chess in under 20 moves. When his class played war games in gym class, Jake always won. He could see what other people would do before they did it. "Jake, you think too much," his best friend Katie Sullivan always told him. She had red hair and freckles and was the only person who could beat him at checkers sometimes. Just have fun like a normal teenager, but Jake could not help it. When he played video games, he did not just play for fun. He studied the maps, learned the patterns, and figured out the best ways to win. His room was full of strategy books and board games that most kids thought were boring. After school, Jake worked at his Uncle Pete's bait shop near the harbor. Uncle Pete was his dad's older brother and had never married. He spent most of his time telling stories about the old days when fishing was better and the town had more people. "You got that look again, Jake," Uncle Pete said as Jake swept the floor. "Like you're thinking about something far away." Jake shrugged. "Just wondering. What's out there, I guess." "Out where?" "You know, beyond the ocean, beyond everything we can see." Uncle Pete laughed. "Boy, you watch too much of that science fiction stuff on TV. There's plenty of world right here to worry about." But Jake could not shake the feeling that there was more to life than this small town. Sometimes at night, he would lie in bed and look out his window at the stars. He felt like he was supposed to be somewhere else, doing something important. The feeling was so strong it made his chest hurt. On this particular October evening, dark clouds were building over the ocean. Jake's mom had told him to come home before the storm hit, but he wanted to walk on the beach one more time. The wind was getting stronger, and the waves were bigger than usual. As Jake walked along the water's edge, something caught his eye. About 100 yards down the beach, there was a large dark shape half buried in the sand. At first, he thought, it might be a piece of driftwood, or maybe part of an old boat that had washed up in the storm. But as he got closer, Jake could see that it was not wood or metal like a normal boat. The object was smooth and dark, almost black, and it seemed to have a strange glow around the edges. It was huge, maybe as long as a school bus, and shaped like a teardrop. Jake looked around to see if anyone else was on the beach, but he was alone. The storm was coming in fast, and most people were inside their houses getting ready for the bad weather. He should have gone home, too, but something about the strange object pulled him closer. When Jake was about 10 feet away, the object started to change. Lines of blue light appeared on its surface, running from one end to the other like veins. The light got brighter, and Jake could hear a low humming sound that seemed to come from inside the thing. He should have been scared. He should have run away and called the police or his parents. But instead, Jake felt calm. The humming sound was almost like music, and the blue light was warm and welcoming. As he took another step closer, the humming stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet, except for the sound of the waves and the wind. Then a voice spoke, clear and loud, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "Biosignature confirmed. Welcome back, Commander." Jake jumped back, his heart pounding. He looked around again, but there was no one else on the beach. The voice had been strange, not quite human, but not like a machine either. "Hello?" Jake called, out, feeling foolish. "Who's there?" The blue lines on the object pulsed brighter. Identity verified. "Commander Marcus Kane, you have been absent for 51 years, 7 months, and 14 days. It is good to have you back." Jake's mouth fell open. "Commander? I think you have the wrong person. I'm just Jake Martinez. I'm 16 years old, and I live in Pine Harbor." A section of the object suddenly opened, revealing a doorway filled with soft white light. Jake could see what looked like a room inside, with walls covered in lights and screens. "Please enter, Commander. We have much to discuss, and time is short. The enemy will arrive soon." Jake stood frozen on the beach. The smart thing to do would be to run home and tell his parents. But something deep inside him, something he had never felt before, was telling him to step forward. It was like a memory that was not quite there, like trying to remember a dream after waking up. The storm was getting worse. Rain started to fall, and lightning flashed in the distance. Jake knew he had to make a choice. He could go home to his normal, boring life, or he could step through that doorway and find out what was waiting for him. Thunder crashed overhead as Jake took his first step toward the strange object. Whatever was about to happen, his ordinary life was about to end. Jake stepped through the doorway and into the strangest room he had ever seen. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, numbers, and pictures of spaceships. Everything glowed with a soft blue light that did not hurt his eyes. The floor felt solid under his feet, but it looked clear like glass. "Please, sit down, Commander," the voice said. A chair rose up from the floor right behind Jake. It looked comfortable and was the perfect height for him. Jake sat down slowly, his hands shaking a little. "I keep telling you, I'm not a commander. I'm just a kid from Maine. My name is Jake Martinez." "That is your current identity." "Yes," the voice replied. A shape began to form in front of Jake, made of the same soft light as everything else in the room. It looked like a woman with kind eyes and long hair. "But you are also Marcus Kane, the greatest military leader humanity has ever known." Jake shook his head. "That's impossible. I would remember being someone else. Your memories were locked. A way to protect you during your childhood. I am Aria, the artificial intelligence of this vessel. I have been waiting for you to return so we can unlock what you truly are." The walls around Jake lit up with new pictures. He saw space battles, with huge ships firing bright weapons at each other. He saw planets with strange cities and alien creatures. He saw a man who looked older than Jake, but had the same dark hair and brown eyes. "That man is Marcus Kane," Aria explained. "He was you in your previous life. He died 51 years ago, defending Earth from an alien invasion. But before he died, his consciousness was saved and placed in a new body." "Your body?" Jake stared at the pictures. The face of Marcus Kane did look like him, but older and more serious. "This is crazy. People don't get reborn. That only happens in movies. Your people have technologies you are not aware of. The war with the hegemony forced humanity to advance quickly in many areas. Consciousness transfer was one of those advances." More pictures appeared on the screens. Jake saw the alien creatures, called the hegemony. They looked like insects, but walked on 2 legs like humans. They had 4 arms and faces that looked angry and mean. Their ships were dark and covered with spikes. "The hegemony conquers worlds and destroys any species that will not serve them," Aria continued. "They attacked Earth 51 years ago. Marcus Kane led the defense, but there were too many enemy ships. In the final battle, He destroyed their main fleet, but died in the process. Jake felt sick to his stomach. So they're all gone? The aliens? No, Commander. That was only their first invasion force. A main hegemony fleet has been traveling toward Earth ever since. They will arrive in less than 6 months. The room went quiet except for the humming of the machines. Jake tried to understand what Aria was telling him. According to her, he was not really Jake Martinez. He was some kind of reborn war hero who was supposed to save the world from aliens. I need to go home, Jake said, standing up. My parents will be worried about me. Of course, but please, come back tomorrow night. There is much more you need to learn. Jake walked to the doorway, which opened as he approached. How do I know you're not lying? How do I know this is all real? Aria's light form smiled sadly. Deep inside, you already know it is real. You have always felt different, have you not? You have always known there was something more waiting for you. Jake did not answer, but she was right. He had always felt like he was waiting for something to happen. The next morning at school, Jake could not concentrate on anything. During math class, he kept thinking about the space battles he had seen on Aria's screens. In English class, while they read a story about ordinary people, Jake wondered if he was really ordinary at all. Earth to Jake, Katie said at lunch, waving her hand in front of his face. You look like you haven't slept in a week. I'm fine, Jake said, picking at his sandwich. But he was not fine. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw pictures of alien ships and battles in space. Come on, tell me what's wrong. We've been friends since we were kids. I know when something is bothering you. Jake wanted to tell Katie everything. She was his best friend, and he had never kept secrets from her before. But how could he explain that he might be a reborn space commander? She would think he was Crazy Dot in history class that afternoon. Something strange happened. The teacher, Mr. Johnson, was talking about World War II and military strategy. Jake found himself raising his hand. Yes, Jake? The reason the Germans lost at Stalingrad was not just the winter, Jake heard himself saying. They spread their forces too thin and did not protect their supply lines. If they had concentrated their attack on one sector and maintained better communication between their units, they could have taken the city. The whole class stared at Jake. He had never spoken up in history class before, and what he had said sounded very smart and detailed. Mr. Johnson looked surprised but pleased. That's excellent analysis, Jake. Have you been reading military history on your own? Jake did not know how to answer. The words had just come out of his mouth, like he had always known them. I guess so, he said quietly. After school, Jake went to work at Uncle Pete's bait shop like always. But even there, strange things kept happening. When Uncle Pete was trying to figure out how to organize the new fishing supplies, Jake looked at the shelves and immediately saw the most efficient way to arrange everything. How did you know to do that? Uncle Pete asked, watching Jake organize the tackle boxes in a perfect system. I don't know. It just made sense. That evening, Jake told his parents he was going for a walk on the beach. The storm from the night before had passed, and the sky was clear. As he walked toward the spot where he had found the ship, Jake felt nervous and excited at the same time. The ship was still there, but now it looked different. It was not buried in the sand anymore. Instead, it sat on top of the beach like it belonged there. Jake could see it clearly in the moonlight, and it was beautiful in a strange way. As he approached, the doorway opened again. Aria's voice welcomed him back. I have been thinking about what you told me, Jake said as he entered the ship. If I really am this Marcus Kane person, why don't I remember anything? Your memories were locked away so you could have a normal childhood, Aria explained. But now that you are old enough, we can begin to unlock them safely. Would you like to try? Jake sat in the chair again. Part of him was scared to find out the truth. But another part of him, a part that was getting stronger, wanted to know who he really was. What do I have to do? Just relax and let me scan your brain patterns. I will unlock only small memories at first. A warm light surrounded Jake's head. At first, he felt nothing. Then, slowly, images started to appear in his mind. He saw himself, but older, standing on the bridge of a spaceship. He was giving orders to other people in uniforms. He felt the weight of command, the responsibility for thousands of lives. The memory faded, but Jake could still feel it. It had been real. He had been there, in that place, making those decisions. How do you feel? Arya asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment, scared, but also ... right, like this is what I was supposed to remember. There will be more memories tomorrow, if you choose to continue. But I must warn you, Commander, not all of the memories will be pleasant. Marcus Kane saw terrible things and made difficult choices. Jake nodded. I understand, but I need to know the truth. As he walked home that night, Jake felt like he was caught between two worlds. He was still Jake Martinez, the teenager from Pine Harbor. But he was also becoming something else, someone else. Someone who had fought in battles among the stars and led armies against terrible enemies. Tomorrow, he would learn more. Tomorrow, he would take another step toward becoming the person he was meant to be. For the next 2 weeks, Jake visited the ship every night. Each time, Arya unlocked more memories from his past life as Marcus Kane. The memories came in pieces, like putting together a puzzle. He remembered commanding huge spaceships with crews of thousands. He remembered making battle plans and studying enemy movements. He remembered the faces of friends who had died in the war. The hardest memory came on a Tuesday night. Arya showed him the final battle where Marcus Kane had died. Jake watched himself, older and wearing a military uniform, standing on a ship's bridge as alien vessels surrounded them. He felt the desperation and the knowledge that Earth was about to fall. He felt the terrible decision to ram his ship into the enemy's main vessel, destroying both ships and killing everyone on board, including himself. When the memory ended, Jake was crying. I killed all those people, he whispered, my own crew. You saved Earth, Arya replied gently. Without that sacrifice, the hegemony would have won. Your crew knew what they were doing. They chose to follow you. But Jake could not stop thinking about it. He had been responsible for so many deaths. How could he live with that knowledge? At school, the changes in Jake were becoming obvious. He was different in ways that worried his friends and teachers. In gym class, when they played Capture the Flag, Jake organized his team like a military unit. He gave everyone specific jobs and positions, and they won easily. But his classmates thought he was being too serious about a simple game. What's wrong with you lately? Asked Tony Brooks, a kid who had known Jake since elementary school. You're acting weird. I'm just trying to help the team win, Jake said. It's just a game, man. You don't have to act like we're in the army. But to Jake, it did not feel like just a game anymore. The tactical knowledge in his head made him see everything as a battle that needed to be won. Katie was getting more worried every day. She watched Jake during lunch as he stared at nothing, lost in thought. Jake, you're scaring me, she said one day. You're like a different person. You don't laugh anymore. You don't joke around. All you do is think about serious stuff. Jake looked at his best friend and realized she was right. The memories of Marcus Kane were changing him. He was becoming colder, more focused on strategy and planning. The part of him that was still a teenager was getting smaller every day. I'm sorry, Katie. I've just had a lot on my mind. Like what? You can tell me anything. We're best friends. Jake wanted to tell her everything. But how could he explain that he was remembering a past life as a space commander? How could he tell her that aliens were coming to destroy Earth? That night, Jake decided he did not want any more memories. When he went to the ship, he told Arya he was done. "I can't handle this anymore," he said. "I want to go back to being a normal teenager. I want to forget everything you've shown me." Arya's light form looked sad. "I understand your reluctance, Commander, but I must show you something." The screens around the room lit up with new images. Jake saw space, dark and full of stars. But moving through that space were ships. Hundreds of them, all dark and covered with spikes, like the hegemony vessels he had seen before. "This is happening right now," Arya said. "The enemy advance scouts have entered your solar system. They are studying Earth's defenses. The main invasion force is only 4 months away." Jake stared at the enemy ships on the screen. They looked huge and threatening, like metal monsters floating in space. "What about the Earth's military? Can't they fight these things? Your planet's current military technology is no match for the hegemony. Without the awakened commanders and their ships, Earth will fall in a matter of days." "Awakened commanders? There are others like me?" "Yes. Around the world, other great leaders from the First War have been reborn, just like you. But they need their true commander to coordinate the defense. They need Marcus Kane." Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. Billions of people were going to die if he did not help. But he was just 16 years old. How could he be expected to save the world? "I'm not ready for this," Jake said. "I'm still just a kid. You are more ready than you know. But you must choose quickly. Every day you delay, the enemy gets closer." Jake spent the next few days thinking about Arya's words. He tried to go back to his normal life, but it was impossible. Every time he looked at his parents, his friends, or the people in his town, he thought about what would happen to them when the hegemony arrived. On Friday night, something happened that changed everything. Jake was walking on the beach when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Katie following him. "I knew you were coming out here every night," she said. "I followed you." Jake's heart sank. "Katie, you need to go home." "No, I'm tired of you keeping secrets from me. What's going on, Jake? And don't tell me it's nothing." Before Jake could answer, the ship began to glow. Katie gasped and stepped backward. "What is that thing?" Jake knew there was no point in lying anymore. "It's a spaceship, and I think I'm supposed to be its commander." Katie stared at him like he had lost his mind. "Jake, that's crazy talk. I know how it sounds, but it's true." Jake took Katie's hand. "Come with me. Let me show you." Against her better judgment, Katie followed Jake to the ship. When the doorway opened, she was too shocked to speak. They walked inside together, and Arya's light form appeared. "Welcome, Katie Sullivan," Arya said. "I have been waiting to meet Jake's closest friend." Katie grabbed Jake's arm. "It knows my name. Arya is the ship's computer," Jake explained. "She's been teaching me about who I really am." Over the next hour, Jake told Katie everything. He showed her the memories of Marcus Kane and the pictures of the coming invasion. Katie listened with wide eyes, asking questions and trying to understand. "So you're saying you're some kind of reborn space warrior?" she asked. "I guess so." No, it sounds impossible." Katie was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at Jake with serious eyes. "You know what? I believe you." "You do?" "Jake, I've known you my whole life. You've been different lately, but not in a bad way. You've been smarter, more confident. Like you finally know who you're supposed to be." Hearing Katie say that made Jake feel better than he had in weeks. If his best friend could accept the truth about him, maybe he could accept it too. "But I'm scared, Katie. What if I make the wrong decisions?" What if people die because of my mistakes? Katie squeezed his hand. Then you'll live with it, like any other commander has to. But Jake, if you don't try, everyone dies anyway. At least this way, Earth has a chance. That night, Jake made his decision. He told Arya he was ready to complete his training and unlock all of his memories as Marcus Kane. Are you certain? Arya asked. Once we unlock everything, there will be no going back. You will remember all of Marcus's experiences, including the painful ones. Jake looked at Katie, who nodded encouragingly. Then he looked at the screens showing the enemy ships getting closer to Earth. Uncertain. It's time for Marcus Kane to come back. The next few hours were the hardest of Jake's life. As Arya unlocked the final memories, Jake felt his personality merging with that of Marcus Kane. He remembered decades of military training, hundreds of battles, and the deaths of thousands of friends and enemies. He felt the weight of command and the terrible loneliness of making life and death decisions. But he also remembered the pride of protecting innocent people and the satisfaction of outthinking a clever enemy. He remembered the loyalty of good soldiers and the strength that came from fighting for something greater than himself. When it was over, Jake was no longer just a teenager from Maine. He was Commander Marcus Kane, returned to save his species from extinction. But he was also still Jake Martinez, and Katie Sullivan was still his best friend. How do you feel? Katie asked. Jake stood up from the chair and looked around the ship with new eyes. Now he understood what all the displays meant. He could read the tactical information and operate the ship's systems. I feel ready, he said. It's time to contact the other commanders and begin preparing Earth's defense. The war was about to begin, and humanity's greatest commander had returned to lead the fight. Within days of Jake's full awakening as Marcus Kane, everything changed. Using the ship's communication systems, he contacted the other awakened commanders around the world. There was Lisa Chun, a fighter pilot in California who commanded a ship designed for speed and quick attacks. In Texas, Danny Rodriguez controlled an engineering vessel that could repair other ships during battle. Amy Foster in New York had a ship built for long-range warfare and tactical support. Each of them had gone through the same experience as Jake. They had been normal people living ordinary lives until their ships found them and awakened their true memories. Now they were humanity's secret defense force, preparing for a war that most people did not even know was coming. It's good to have you back, Commander, Lisa said during their first video conference. Her ship's holographic display showed her sitting in a cockpit that looked like it belonged in the future. We've been waiting for your orders. Jake still felt strange being called commander by people who looked older than him. But the memories of Marcus Kane told him these were soldiers he had served with before, in different bodies and different lives. What's our current situation? Jake asked. Danny answered from his engineering bay. The enemy scouts have been watching Earth for 2 weeks. They're staying in the outer solar system, beyond Mars. We think they're studying our defenses and communications. How many ships do they have? At least 50 scout vessels, Amy replied. But intelligence suggests the main fleet is still 3 months out. We have time to prepare, but not much. Jake studied the tactical displays Arya showed him. The enemy ships were small and fast, designed for gathering information rather than fighting. But they were still dangerous, and they would report back to the main fleet about everything they learned. We need to eliminate those scouts, Jake decided. If we let them keep watching us, the main fleet will know exactly how to attack when they arrive. Agreed, Lisa said. But there are 50 of them, and only 4 of us. The odds are not good. Jake smiled, and for a moment he looked exactly like the old Marcus Kane. I've won battles against worse odds. We don't need to fight them all at once. We'll use hit-and-run tactics. Pick them off one or two at a time. Over the next few weeks, Jake coordinated attacks on the hegemony scouts. The battles took place far from Earth, where no one could see the bright flashes of energy weapons or the explosions of destroyed ships. To the people on Earth, life continued normally. They went to work, went to school, and had no idea that their planet was under attack. Jake found the battles both terrifying and exciting. His ship was faster and more maneuverable than anything he had ever imagined. Arya helped him pilot it, but the tactical decisions were all his. He felt the rush of combat and the satisfaction of outthinking the enemy. In the first battle, Jake and Lisa worked together to destroy 3 scout ships. Jake used his ship to draw the enemies into a trap, while Lisa attacked them from behind. The hegemony ships were destroyed quickly, but Jake felt no joy in the victory. He remembered these enemies from his past life, and he knew they were just the beginning. Katie watched the battles from Jake's ship. She had insisted on coming along, saying she was not going to let her best friend fight aliens without backup. Jake had argued, but Arya supported Katie's presence. She helps you remember your humanity, Arya explained. Marcus Kane sometimes forgot that he was fighting to protect people, not just to win battles. Katie will help you avoid that mistake. After each battle, Jake felt the weight of command more heavily. When Danny's ship was damaged by enemy fire, Jake had to decide whether to risk the other ships to save him. When Amy was trapped between 2 enemy vessels, Jake had to choose between a safe retreat and a dangerous rescue. The hardest moment came during their 5th engagement. Jake and his team had found a group of 7 enemy scouts near Jupiter. The plan was simple: destroy them quickly and retreat before reinforcements could arrive. But the plan went wrong. The enemy ships were faster than expected, and they had better weapons. Danny's engineering ship was hit badly and started to lose power. "I can't keep up," Danny reported over the radio. "My engines are failing." Jake could see Danny's ship falling behind as enemy vessels closed in on it. He had 2 choices: abandon Danny and save the rest of the team, or risk everyone to save one person. The tactical part of his brain, the part that was purely Marcus Kane, said to retreat. One ship was not worth losing the whole team. But the part of him that was still Jake Martinez could not leave a friend behind. "Lisa, Amy, cover Danny's retreat," Jake ordered. "I'm going in." "Commander, that's too dangerous," Amy protested. "There are too many of them." "That's an order," Jake said firmly. Jake turned his ship around and flew straight at the enemy vessels. Arya fired the ship's weapons as fast as they could recharge, destroying 2 enemy ships and damaging a 3rd. But more enemies were coming, and Jake's ship was taking heavy fire. "Danny, can you jump to faster than light speed?" Jake asked. "Not with my engines like this. I need more time." Jake made a decision that Marcus Kane would have been proud of. He flew his ship directly between Danny and the enemy, using his own vessel as a shield. Enemy weapons hammered his ship's defenses, and warning lights flashed all around the cockpit. "Jump now, Danny," Jake shouted. Danny's ship disappeared in a flash of light, safely escaping to Earth. But Jake's ship was surrounded by enemies, and his weapons were overheating. "Arya, can we get out of here?" "Hull damage is severe, Commander. I am not certain we can survive another attack." Just when things looked hopeless, Lisa and Amy came back. They had not followed Jake's order to retreat. Instead, they had positioned themselves for a surprise attack on the enemy's rear. "Nobody gets left behind," Lisa said over the radio as her ship destroyed 3 enemy vessels with a single shot. Together, the 3 ships destroyed the remaining enemies and escaped back to Earth. Danny's ship was badly damaged but repairable. Jake's ship needed major repairs, but everyone had survived. That night, as Arya worked to fix the ship's systems, Jake sat on the beach with Katie. He was exhausted, and his hands were shaking from the stress of combat. "You did the right thing," Katie said. "You saved Danny." "I almost got everyone killed," Jake replied. "Marcus Kane would have left him behind and saved the mission." "But you're not just Marcus Kane. You're also Jake Martinez, and Jake would never abandon a friend." Jake thought about Katie's words. She was right. He was not the same person Marcus Kane had been. He had the same memories and skills, but he also had his own values and conscience. Over the following weeks, Jake's team destroyed more enemy scouts. Each battle was dangerous, but they were winning. The enemy was running out of ships, and the main fleet would arrive with less information about Earth's defenses. But Jake knew the real war was still coming. The hegemony main fleet was massive, with thousands of ships and weapons that could destroy entire planets. His small team of 4 ships would not be enough to stop them. "We need help," Jake told the other commanders during one of their meetings. "We can't fight the main fleet by ourselves." "What do you suggest?" Amy asked. Jake looked at his friends and teammates and made the hardest decision of his young life. "It's time to tell the world the truth. We need to prepare Earth for war." The secret part of the war was over. Soon, everyone on Earth would know that aliens were coming, and that their only hope was a 16-year-old boy who had once been humanity's greatest commander. The real battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. Jake stood in front of the United Nations General Assembly, looking out at representatives from every country on Earth. He was still just 16 years old, but when he spoke, his voice carried the authority of Marcus Kane, humanity's greatest military commander. 3 months ago, I was a normal teenager living in a small town in Maine, Jake began. Today, I stand before you as Commander Marcus Kane, returned from death to warn you of the greatest threat our species has ever faced. The revelation of the alien invasion had caused panic around the world. Governments had tried to keep it secret at first, but Jake had forced their hand by broadcasting the truth directly to every television and internet connection on the planet. Within hours, everyone on Earth knew that aliens were coming to destroy them. Some people had refused to believe it. Others had panicked and tried to flee to remote areas. But most had done what humans always did when faced with a crisis. They had come together to fight. "The hegemony fleet will arrive in 6 weeks," Jake continued. "They have over 2,000 ships, each one capable of destroying entire cities. But we are not helpless. Humanity has weapons and abilities that our enemies do not expect." Behind Jake, a holographic display showed images of the new Earth Defense Force. In the 2 months since the truth had been revealed, the world's governments had worked together to build new ships and weapons using technology from the awakened commanders. Vessels, factories that had once made cars and appliances, now produced energy weapons and armor plating. "We have built 300 defense ships," Jake announced. "Each one is equipped with weapons that can match the enemy's technology. But our greatest advantage is not our ships or our weapons. It is our humanity." Jake's speech was broadcast to every corner of the Earth. In Pine Harbor, his parents watched with tears in their eyes, proud of their son, but terrified for his safety. Katie sat in the front row of the UN Assembly, wearing the uniform of Jake's personal staff. She had refused to stay safely on Earth, insisting that her place was by her best friend's side. Around the world, millions of people listened to Jake's words and felt hope for the first time since learning about the invasion. This young man who had once been their greatest defender was back, and he had a plan. "The enemy expects us to be afraid," Jake said. "They expect us to surrender or to fight in predictable ways. But humans are not predictable. We adapt, we innovate. We find ways to win, even when victory seems impossible." After his speech, Jake met with the world's military leaders to finalize their battle plans. The Earth Defense Force would be divided into several groups. The main fleet, commanded by Jake, would meet the enemy head-on in space. Smaller groups would protect Earth cities and military bases. Special teams would attempt to capture enemy ships and learn their technology. "It's a good plan," said General Patricia Stone, the American military leader who had been put in charge of Earth's ground defenses. "But are you sure you can handle commanding such a large fleet? You're still just a teenager." Jake smiled, the same confident smile that Marcus Kane had once used to reassure nervous soldiers. "General, I've been fighting this enemy for over 50 years, across 2 lifetimes. I know how they think, how they move, and how to beat them." The weeks before the invasion passed quickly. Jake spent his time training new pilots and coordinating with his fellow awakened commanders. Lisa had been put in charge of Earth's fighter squadrons. Danny commanded the engineering ships that would repair battle damage. Amy led the long-range artillery vessels that would provide support from a distance. But Jake also made time for the things that mattered to him as Jake Martinez, not just as Marcus Kane. He had dinner with his parents, telling them how proud he was to be their son. He walked on the beach in Pine Harbor one last time, collecting sea glass and remembering the boy he had been just a few months ago. Most importantly, he spent time with Katie, who had become more than just his best friend. She was his anchor to his humanity, the person who reminded him why Earth was worth fighting for. "Are you scared?" Katie asked as they sat on Jake's ship the night before the battle. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "Last time, Marcus Kane died fighting these creatures. What if I'm not good enough? What if I can't save everyone?" "You don't have to save everyone," Katie said gently. "You just have to do your best. And your best is pretty amazing." The hegemony fleet arrived exactly when Jake's calculations had predicted. 2,000 alien ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They were massive, each one larger than a city, and they moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts. Jake stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy approach on the main screen. Around him, the crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. These were people from all over Earth who had volunteered to fight, knowing they might not survive. But they believed in their young commander, and they were ready to follow him into battle. "All ships, this is Commander Kane," Jake said into his radio. "The enemy is here. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every free species in the galaxy. Show them what humanity can do." The battle that followed was the largest space combat in human history. Jake's 300 ships met the enemy halfway between Earth and Mars, their weapons lighting up the darkness like a deadly fireworks display. Jake had learned from Marcus Kane's memories, but he also used new tactics that the enemy had never seen before. Human ships were smaller and faster than the alien vessels, so Jake used hit-and-run attacks, striking hard and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. The key to Jake's strategy was unpredictability. When the enemy expected him to retreat, he attacked. When they prepared for a frontal assault, he struck from the sides. He used the asteroids in the belt between Mars and Jupiter to hide his ships, then ambushed enemy formations as they passed. But the battle was not without cost. Dozens of human ships were destroyed, and hundreds of brave pilots died fighting for their home world. Jake felt each loss like a physical pain, but he could not let grief slow him down. Too much depended on his ability to command the fleet. The turning point came when Jake realized the enemy's weakness. The hegemony ships were powerful individually, but they were not good at working together. Their commanders were used to fighting weaker enemies who would surrender quickly. They had never faced an opponent who could match their technology and exceed their tactics. Jake split his fleet into small groups and attacked the enemy from multiple directions at once. The alien commanders became confused, unable to coordinate their responses. Instead of fighting as one massive fleet, they found themselves fighting dozens of separate battles. "All ships, focus fire on the enemy command vessel," Jake ordered as he identified the largest hegemony ship. "If we can take out their leader, the rest will be easier to handle." Jake led the attack personally, flying his ship directly at the enemy flagship. The alien vessel was enormous, covered with weapons that fired continuously at the approaching human ships. Many of Jake's pilots were shot down, but others took their place, pressing the attack with desperate courage. In the end, it was Katie who made the difference. She had insisted on coming to the battle as Jake's tactical advisor, and she spotted something that even Jake had missed. "Look at the enemy ship's energy readings," she said, pointing to her display. "Every time they fire their main weapon, their shields get weaker for a few seconds." Jake saw it immediately. "All ships wait for my signal. When their main gun fires, hit them with everything we have." The timing had to be perfect. Jake watched the enemy flagship charge its massive weapon, waiting for the exact moment when their shields would drop. Then he gave the order. 50 human ships fired at once, their combined energy beams punching through the weakened shields and striking the alien vessel's hull. The enemy flagship exploded in a brilliant flash that could be seen from Earth. With their leader gone, the remaining hegemony ships began to retreat. Some human pilots wanted to pursue them, but Jake ordered his fleet to let them go. "Let them run," he said. "Let them tell the rest of the hegemony what happened here. Let them know that Earth is defended by humans who will never surrender." The victory celebration lasted for days. People around the world cheered for their young commander and the brave pilots who had saved their planet. Jake was honored by every government on Earth and offered any reward he wanted. But Jake's greatest reward was simpler than any medal or title. It was the knowledge that he had protected the people he loved and the world he called home. A year later, Jake stood on the same beach in Pine Harbor where his adventure had begun. He was 17 now, still young, but carrying the wisdom of 2 lifetimes. The alien threat was gone, but Jake remained as humanity's protector, ready for whatever dangers might come from the stars. Katie joined him on the beach, and together they watched the sunset over the ocean. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, other alien species had heard about humanity's victory. Some would be enemies, but others would be friends, seeking alliance with the species that had defeated the mighty hegemony. "So what happens now?" Katie asked. Jake picked up a piece of sea glass from the sand, just like he had done as a child. But now he looked up at the stars with different eyes, seeing not mystery but possibility. "Now we explore," he said.